So in this video we are going to continue Python series part 4. So let's get started. So what we are going to do today? Today we have to do for loops. So what are for loops? Well, it is nothing. It is another kind of loop in Python which is same as while loop but with a little bit difference. So how for loops are used? What are basic syntax of it? Here you can see an example. Here I have written a for loop in 2 lines. And what does this for loop is doing? It is printing from 0 to 10. As you can see here in the example. So let's write this code and see how does it work actually. Here, what does it do? Well, it printed from 0 to 10. But how? Here you can see it is taking a variable for I. I is a variable which is being iterated from range 0 to 11 minus 1. Why 11 minus 1? Because the number which you put in the range, it will take only to the number it should iterate. Like it will, if you are giving it 11, so it will start from 0, then goes to 1, then 2, then 3 till it reaches to 10, but will not take last number. This is how range function works. And here I is the variable in which the range functions is iterating. So at starting, when I was 0, it printed 0. After that, the first for loop ended, then second one started, in which I turned to 1, and then it again printed, but this time the value was 1. Now, after that, it kept printing something like 2, 3, 4, and at last, it printed 10. When it reached 10, after that, it stopped because after that 11 was the next number, which was the last number that it should actually print, but in range it only takes from 0 to the previous number which it should print instead of the last number, that is 11. That means it will always print one number lesser than the number you have entered. So kindly keep this in mind while using for loop. Now, why we are learning about for loop? Because for loop is not only working on numbers. Well, it can work on things like string, and when I will teach you about other things like list and tuples, so in that also for loop can work very beautifully. Here, as I have not taught you about list till now, but I have told you about string, so I am taking a string as an example. Here you can see that it is iterating in hello, and you can see what will be the output. It will print each character of hello one by one. Like first it printed H, then it printed E, after that it printed L, then next L, then finally O. Let's run it in our own computer and see how it is working. Here you can see that it had printed each character of the string. Well, what does it mean that I is basically the variable in which the iteration is being stored. When it is pointing to H, then I will turn into H. When it is pointing to E, then I will turn E, and you can use I to do various operations. Here is an example of which kind of operations you can do. Here in this code, what I have did is I want to get some spaces between hello world. So for that, what I have did is that instead of printing I and then going to next line, I have asked print function to use a space instead of enter. Here by default in print function end used to be equal to /n, which is a carriage return. But now what we are doing is we have assigned end is equals to space. So if we will do the same thing here, so what it will do? Here you can see that it has given us the word with some spaces. Now you can do some other things like you can, instead of using space, you can use something like stars. So here you can see in between the words it has given stars, and even at the last of the character it has given star. Now like other while loops, here for loop also has break statement which you can use according to your purpose. For example, if I want user to enter a string and then I want to print all the characters from the string until it reaches something like character A. So this is how we will do it. Now here you can see in the code it has printed until A reached. After A, it just break the for loop and exited from it. And now same as while loop, we have continue statement even in for loop. Now suppose you have a string and you want to do some kind of certain operation like here in this code what we have did is whenever A was there we just skip that and we instead of A printed nothing and we just continued to next character in string A. Here you can see that it has printed all the strings except small a. Why? Because whenever it used to see that I had become small a, so it used to just skip all the blocks below this, which means it used to skip print I and then it used to continue from the next item. Now ranges are not like you can do just one single thing. Ranges can be used in different ways. Like first, you have already seen that we used to enter one argument in ranges and used to print from 0 till one number before that number. That is when I will ask like for I in range 10, so it will iterate I equals to 0 to I equals to 9. But suppose you want to do something like you want to print from 5 to 10. So how will you do that? So for that we have another kind of, we can set starting range and then ending range. Here in this code you can see that I have used a starting range which is 5 and then I used an ending range which is 11. Here you can see it has printed from 5 till 10, and you can also note that the starting number is the exact number that we have given in the range, that is 5, is other than the ending number that used to be one number lesser than the given number. That is whenever I was giving the ending number as 11, it used to give me something like till 10 in a for loop. Now in the range We can even define something like steps. So what it will do is it will iterate from starting number to ending number with a given steps. Like it will, instead of going from one step, if I will say it like hey, don't go something like only one step, go ahead like two steps in range. So it will, so for that we have to add another argument, which is third argument, which is steps. So let's change the code according to it. Here you can see that the output is something like 4, then 6, then 8, then 10. Well, why it did something like this? Well, because the starting range was 4 and then kept printing by steps as 2, which means that when it printed 4, after that it will do a plus 2 in I, and the next iteration in range will be I is equals to 6, and after that when it prints 6, then it will again do a plus 2 in I, and then the next value of I will be 8, and it keeps doing until the ending range I is equals to become ending range, or it becomes greater than ending range. At that point it will stop printing I. Now we have some exercises, as we have reached to certain level where you can code something by your own. Here I have given an example code which you can try out. Like you have to write a program in which you will ask user to enter a number, and then according to that it will print a triangle of that length. Well, how we can do this? So for that, let's write a code. Now here you can see that we have written the code through which we can achieve that triangle pattern of stars. Well, how it was working? Let's see through the code. Here I have asked user to enter a number. After that, I went into the for loop with a plus 1. Why a plus 1? Because you know that in range it will print till one number before the given number. So I want to print until the given number by user. So what I did is I just added plus 1, because of which I got a range of 0 to a. In the next line you can see I have did a print, then space, then star, and then in bracket I used a minus I, and then comma and equals to nothing, an empty string. Well, what it is going to do is it is going to print space to a minus I, which means first time when I was equals to 0, so it printed from a minus I, which means 5 minus 0, which is the space got printed 5 times, and after that it ended with n without any kind of character. It is just a null character. And the next print statement, what it did, well, it printed star and then space I times, which means at first line it printed nothing, it printed 0. So you can see here is the first line where it printed no stars, it just given us 5 spaces, and that's it. But when I turned 1, so there was a little bit change. This time the number of spaces that printed was 4. Why? Because a is equals to 5 and I turned into 1, which means the number of spaces decreased by 1, and we got only 4 spaces, and after that it printed 1 star and a space, but the space as is not visible, so we didn't notice. we just noticed the stars. Here in the code also you can see it by your own. Here you can see in the second line it has printed only 4 spaces, but in the first line it printed something like 5 spaces, and then it printed a star in second line. And now it will do it until the value of I reaches to 5, as I entered 5 in the input function. And you can use even things like user can put another values, like if I put something like 10, so it gives me a bigger triangle in which the base has 10 stars, and that's how you can get a pattern. Now there is a challenge question which I am not going to do. You have to do it and show me in comment section. Here is the challenge question. Here what you have to do, you have to ask the user to enter a number, and you have to print a diamond like shape with the help of star characters, in which the maximum one will be of 5 stars. And you can see it like it is a kind of upper triangle from here, and then from here it start to decrease and become a upside down triangle. So it is a kind of hint from my side, and now you have to make the code, you have to run it and show me in your comment section. So that's all for this video. I hope you have liked this video. Thanks for watching, and I will meet you next time.